you 1 second. I agree with you. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 at 7:54 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Dan Healy, and Alderman Thibodeau will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance.
Alderman O'Brien. Alderman O'Brien.
I don't think he heard you.
Alderman O'Brien? Okay. He is present. Alderwoman Timmons?
Here.
Well, technically, he's got to be able to hear us, and we've got to be able to hear him.
Right.
I'll come back to him at the end. Alderman Moran?
I'm definitely here, yes.
Alderman Thibodeau?
Here.
Alderman Govea?
Here.
Alderman Lopez?
Here.
Alderman Sullivan?
Here.
Alderman Clemmons?
Here.
Alderman Senate?
Here.
Alderman Jettie?
Here.
Alderman Tebow?
Here.
Alderman Clee?
Here.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes, I'm attending the meeting on Zoom, and I'm out of town visiting family on vacation, and I'm alone in the room.
Alderwoman Kelly?
I'm here.
Alderman Wilshire?
Here.
And Alderman O'Brien, can you hear us?
He said they're working on it.
Okay. So 15 present, 0 absent.
14.
14? Okay. 14 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Also joining us this evening is Mayor Jim Donchis and Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. Mayor, did you wish to address the board this evening?
Yes, Madam President. A few things. First, I want to mention the work of what we're calling the Ad Hoc Capital Committee. They completed their work. Just to go back for context, we as a body decided that we needed to limit the amount of borrowing or bonding that takes place over the next 5 years, and tried to limit that to a maximum of $150 million, $30 million a year for 5 years. And therefore, we formed a committee to look at the various projects that are possibilities, which, if you put them all together, total $300 or more million. And the committee, after a number of sessions, worked to develop a plan, and that has been recommended by the committee. I think ultimately maybe it will come to the full Board of Aldermen just for official adoption. But I want to thank the people that worked on the committee. I think the recommendations are good, and you need to set priorities and make choices, and I believe that's what the committee did. So I was happy to see the work completed, and I want to thank everybody for contributing to that. Number two, you probably all have heard that the asphalt plant appeal, the denial of the asphalt plant on the east side of downtown, the appeal filed by the applicant was withdrawn by the applicant. The Superior Court appeal was withdrawn. And I believe that's good news for the city, for the neighborhood, and for everyone involved. I want to thank also the applicant really for making that decision to withdraw the application, and to all the people who helped to raise this as an issue of neighborhood quality, the planning board as well for their decision to deny the plant, and ultimately, again, as I said, I think we reached the best resolution for the residents of that neighborhood as well as the city as a whole. I wanted to mention that the new rates for the community power have been released. Doria Brown, the city energy manager, was going to try to be here, I think, and I don't know if she's on Zoom.
She is here. She's here.
Oh, okay, she's going to speak. So you'll hear from her that the projected rates by community power are again going to be significantly lower than Eversource, but I will allow her to fill you in on the details. One more thing, two more things. The legislation O2419 has to do with reserving parking for veterans in front of the Legion Hall. There was a miscommunication as originally introduced. The resolution suggested in front of the VFW as opposed to the which is on East Pearl, as opposed to in front of the American Legion. The committee made an amendment to switch the location, but it is also supposed to be 2 parking spaces rather than 1. That apparently never even got to the committee, so I spoke with Alderman Govea, the vice chair. I didn't see Alderman O'Brien here, so I went to the vice chair. And if you don't mind, it would be best, I believe, to amend that further to make it 2 spaces. The whole point is there are people who park in front of the VFW hall and stay there all day, and they get tickets and they ignore them, and it just so the point of the ordinance is to reserve these for veterans who wish to go to the American Legion Hall, many of whom aren't that mobile and need parking spaces right in front. So anyway, if that were further amended, I'm sure and this was recommended by the Veterans Committee of the city, I'm sure they would greatly appreciate it. Finally, the summer stroll is going to be held, and we won't have any further meetings before this. The summer stroll is coming up on July 27th. That's a Saturday. Thank you to everyone who's been involved, Liz Hannum, and everyone, Kath Palmer, who's been involved in setting that up. Also, Alderman Sennett, I think it was his remarking some months ago that, boy, that summer stroll we used to have when I was a kid was really great. I think that helped to lead to the decision to go forward and reinstitute the summer stroll activity in the summertime. So hopefully everybody can attend that. And that's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Response to the remarks of the mayor. Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wonderful to hear about the withdrawing of litigation for the asphalt plant. Great job to the Planning Board, Corporation Council, and everyone else that was involved. It's a big win for the city, and especially to my former ward, Ward 7.
Alderman Lopez.
Yeah, I just want to thank the mayor for clarifying the legislation and helping to champion it, because I did hear about it at 4th of July for Veterans event over at Liquid Therapy. And it is an issue, and Legion would definitely like to be able to access the parking that's proximal to their headquarters.
Alderman Sennett.
Thank you, Madam President. First, just like to clarify, I'm still a kid, so thank you. But no, more seriously, I want to thank everybody who was involved in the very long nights and very grassroots-oriented work on the asphalt plant. I think this is a big win for that neighborhood located in my ward. I know a lot of people who don't typically become civically involved were involved in that, and they all deserve a nice pat on the back tonight because, like I said, people put in a lot of hours and a lot of work on that. So thanks to everybody on that. And thanks to everybody here in the city involved as well. Thank you.
Alderman Clegg.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Mayor, I think we did, Ms. Hannum did bring us an amendment to 2 parking spaces, 11 Court Street, versus the 8 East Pearl VFW. We did vote on that at the committee. I don't know if,
So
we just don't
is
have
the
it here.
amendment 2 spaces or 1?
It's
I
right-
thought the
I
amendment.
had-
All right, well, then there's no further
Yeah,
amendment
and
required.
we do have the goldenrod copy of it, so.
Well, then, just thank you to the committee for making the amendment and helping out with that, because I think this will help the people that go to the veterans who use the Union, or the Legion Hall.
Yeah, thank you. And I too want to thank all of those hardworking citizens who came out and spoke about the asphalt plant and how it would hurt our city. I know I was quite concerned with the traffic that was going to come through my ward, as well as not just the asphalt plant itself. But I also want to thank Alderman Sennett for the pictures that he took and represented his ward before he was an alderman. He came and he spoke and explained how this would happen and showed where there were bus stops and made it real for those people who weren't necessarily familiar with that area. So thank you so much for what you did too.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. As the only one that got to vote against the asphalt plant, I'm very pleased to see that this has been dismissed. Thank you.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Mayor, I just want to clear up if I heard you wrong before. I'm the Vice of Planning and Economic Development, not Infrastructure, but
okay.
if you still need me to make this motion going forward, I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
Recognition period.
None.
Presentation, we have Nashua Community Power, the new rates, and I will recognize our Energy Manager, Doria Brown.
Hello. So I have new electricity rates for you all. This is the 4th time now that I've come to the Board of Aldermen to share what the new rates are for community power since we launched in April of 2023. So congratulations on upholding a community power program for a year. And I'm here to tell you what's going on now and what's to come. So here's a little refresher on community power and how it works. So Nashua Community Power purchases electricity from sources that we choose. Eversource continues to be our partner and deliver electricity using the same power lines and infrastructure and billing mechanisms. And Nashua Energy customers save money and have the power to choose new rates and products and how much electricity comes from renewable resources. So here's a little bit more about the ins and outs of the program. We use the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire to help administer our program. They manage our revenue and cash flow, and they also manage the Community Power Reserve Fund, which I'm actually going to talk a lot more about today. So, here we go. Here is a kind of a screenshot of where we are with Nashua Community Power. I was hoping it would be a little bit bigger on the presentation screen, but these are all of the towns that use the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire for their programs. And I did put an arrow next to Nashua, but I'm happy to report that since April 2023, we sold about $26,256,000 worth of kilowatt hours. Our total costs were $20,996. We have a joint reserve account with $5.2 million in it, and we have delivered about $5.2 million in customer savings, and our total community benefit is $10.5 million. So that is savings plus reserves. And we have sold a total of 238,883,000 kilowatt hours in the last year. Oh, almost skipped it. Here we go. So I am happy to report that our new electric rate is going to be 8.8 cents a kilowatt hour. We are under the Eversource proposed rate of 10.458 cents a kilowatt hour, and we are offering a new product called the Nashua Community Benefit Rate, which I will describe further. An opt-down product called Granite Basic at 8.6 cents, a Granite Plus product, which is 33% renewable energy content at 9.3 cents, a Clean 50 product, which is 50% renewable energy at 10 cents, and a Clean 100 product, which is 100% renewable energy at 12 cents. So I did want to talk more about joint reserves today and what they are. So joint reserves are accrued and maintained by the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire on behalf of all members. Reserve contributions are tracked and accounted for according to the share associated with each member's community power program as per their financial reserve policy. So the objective of having these joint reserves is to maintain rate stability and protect against sudden upward adjustments in rates, ensure sufficient cash available to meet expenses, to lower avoided interest expenses and thereby reduce costs to customers, build creditworthiness and become an attractive counterparty to energy suppliers and project developers, achieve a credit rating and maintain a good standard with rating agencies, manage risk identified in the energy portfolio risk management policy for the coalition, and create shared understanding and transparency among all parties in the proper level and use of reserves. So that is what our reserve fund is supposed to be used for. But there's another section of it. So oh, see, I keep messing it up. Here we go, I'm back in. So another part of our reserve is called discretionary reserves. So individual members may apply an adder to their community power rates for the accrual of discretionary reserves. Application of such adders must be appropriated by the Community Power Coalition CEO and the member's governing body or their authorized designee. In our case, I'm the authorized designee for the City of Nashua. Discretionary reserves shall be tracked, accounted for, and transferred to the individual member or otherwise applied or held by the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire as directed by the individual's member's governing body. Members may use discretionary reserves to invest in developing new local energy projects or to fund programs benefiting their customers specifically or for other uses as determined solely by each individual member. CPC&H aims to make available the ability for members to apply an adder to their rate to accrue discretionary reserves starting in August 2024. Excess reserves is a cap on the collection of joint reserves by CPC&H, and if the accrual of joint reserves exceeds the maximum reserve target of 180 days operating costs, then the balance of excess is allocated to the member's discretionary reserve fund. So to revisit joint reserves, if you have more than the amount needed for 180 days for operating expenses for the coalition or Nashua Community Power, that excess is put into discretionary reserves as well. So I do want to get into the new rate product and structure. So this rate cycle, we are offering a new product called the Nashua Community Benefit Rate. Granite Basic will now be offered as an opt-down product. The new community benefit rate will be lower than the Eversource utility rate, which is proposed at 10.45 cents a kilowatt hour. And the benefit rate includes a 0.2 cent adder, which will go directly into discretionary reserves for Nashua Community Power. So we're able to offer a significant discount from Eversource's rate and start accruing money into our discretionary reserve account, which goes towards special projects to help further drive down the rate and increase the benefit for Nashua Community Power customers living in our community. So the average home uses 600 kilowatt hours per month, and this change or this charge with the adder is about $1.20 added to the monthly electricity bill. There we go, I did it. So discretionary reserve generation. Pictured here is the resulting revenue that we will accrue when the adder is put in place in August. So after 1 year of having a 0.2 cent adder, the discretionary reserve estimate is about $477,000. So we do have some questions that we're working on with the finance legal department and with the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. And that is, when do we want these funds to be deposited and how do we want to receive them as a community? So monthly, quarterly, twice annually. Will it come through electronically or through check? So we're still working on that portion of this. But for now, that money would be held by the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, who has demonstrated that they can manage money properly and will be putting it into a separate account for the city. So where will we allocate these funds, and can we collect interest? So the enterprise fund and expendable fund and revolving trust are some things that we are exploring for these funds coming in from discretionary reserves. We are exploring who will manage these funds and decide how they will be spent. So currently, our community power guidance document says that the Board of Aldermen says how these monies should be expended. So if we are to spend these funds, we should be going back to you. And how will we communicate the adder to the community? And I just did, so awesome. So here are potential uses for the revenue. They include high-speed level 3 EV chargers, a revolving loan fund for resident and home rental energy upgrades, financial support for another Solarize campaign. This is when we offer a discount for solar panels for people's homes. A rebate program for residential energy efficiency projects, purchase our PPA solar arrays, or power purchase agreement solar arrays, sorry for the acronym. And those include Lake Street Fire and the Transit Garage. Coming from our sustainability plan, some project options include a launch of a residential and commercial energy coaching program to create incentives to encourage the development of renewable energy systems in high-performing buildings, by updating the land use code to permit density bonuses or similar incentives. City-owned alternative fuel vehicle purchases, HVAC energy efficiency upgrades for city buildings, and my personal favorite pet project, which might not happen, is the DPW landfill gas to energy microgrid line purchases, which would spur the creation of a microgrid from our landfill gas to energy plant in that area. So I know I just said a lot, and I'm opening to questions now.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. So I've been doing this for a year now, so it looks like it's going pretty well. You know, working for the competition at Eversource. I still see people.
Partners,
yeah.
Yep.
I still see people that are, and it's a pass-through fee, so Eversource isn't making profit on the supply. I still see people on Eversource. Yeah, we've been lower than them the whole time we've been on. How many people in Nashua, or how many homes are on community power? And when you give me the number, I know if you know it, there's going to be substantial other ones not on it. Why wouldn't people want the cheaper price in electricity?
So I don't know the number of accounts off the top of my head, but I know it's over, I believe, 30,000 accounts that are with Nashua Community Power. The answer to your other question, why, is something that I don't know. We'd have to put out a survey or something to really get down to that. Also, before I forget, I do want to introduce Brian, the CEO of the Community Power Coalition. I was supposed to do that at the end of the presentation. But if you want to say a few words, you're more than welcome to, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to come down and see the city and just let you know that how thankful we are for the leadership that you all put together. CPCNH, as you know, has been growing pretty significantly. You were a founding member of CPCNH to get that off the ground for everybody in New Hampshire. And when you look at the membership as we have been growing, we are now looking at over just about 35% of the population is now represented by CPCNH membership. We're not serving that full amount yet, but we're certainly working towards it. So just want to recognize the leadership that the city has put together as being a founding member, and the excellent work that Director Brown has been doing for the organization. And I was about to look up, I'm not sure who asked that question, but I think I might have the answer for that if you give me a minute or two.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up.
Alderman Tebow.
So 13,000, that seems not low. I mean, it's a lot of people, but
30,000.
oh, 30,000?
Yes,
That seems pretty
over
good.
30,000.
I still, like I said, I still see it, so I always wonder, like, is it people don't trust it? But now it's been there for a year, and it's been strong, and it's been a great price, and, you know, nothing changes in your what you see day to day in your house. So I just don't know why people wouldn't jump on it. I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
To elaborate further on my answer, there are net metered customers that aren't eligible for the community power rate. So that's one reason, but also some people choose to opt to be with Eversource, and that's their choice.
Alderman Jettie?
Thank you. So, Doria, you've done a great job with this, and I agree with Alderman Tebow. Everybody ought to be on this. You get a lower price, plus you can, you contribute to establishing the generation of these reserves, which the city can do great things with. But I do have a question. So, if people who are on this don't do anything, they're going to get the Nashua Community Benefit rate, which is 2 cents per kilowatt hour more than the basic rate. To get the basic rate, they would have to opt into that?
Yes, so the granted basic rate is 8.6 cents a kilowatt hour, and that's 0.2 of a cent less than the Nashua Community Benefit rate, which is 8.8 cents. And that increase would add about $1.20 to the average electric bill of 600 kilowatt hours a month.
Okay, so if people do nothing,
Yes.
they'll be enrolled in this Nashua Community Benefit Program, and just for about $1 a month, they can contribute to, this reserve fund that the city can do great things with. And if people are really concerned about the climate crisis, they can opt into one of these other programs, Granite Plus, Clean 50, or Clean 100. Could you explain those to us?
Yes. So the opt-up options have a higher renewable energy content that's purchased through renewable energy credits. So that rate, or those opt-up rates, don't include the 0.2 of a cent adder. So that would just be opting up to purchase renewable energy credits, which are generated through the generation of clean energy, like our hydroelectric facilities sell renewable energy credits, or RECs for short. And I am actually happy to say that we are selling our RECs to the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. So part of our renewable energy content does include Nashua generated power. So the opt-up is to purchase RECs, but the community benefit rate, 0.2 of a cent, goes directly into the community, and that money stays with the community.
Okay, so thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I'm excited to have that fund start to be filled. It's really important work. I did have a question about the opt-out group. Do we ever communicate back to them to get them to reconsider?
So currently, we only send communication to new customers quarterly. So if you have opted out, I believe you shouldn't receive another notification from the Community Power Coalition or from Nashua Community Power. But you can always go on the Nashua Community Power website and see what the new rates are going to be or what they are, and you can opt into the program that way, and you can always call the Community Power number, which I wish I added to this presentation right here, because that would have been helpful, but I can get that out to you if you'd like.
If I could follow up. Sure. So if someone is watching this presentation, understands now that it's lower than Eversource and they want to sign up, they can go to the Community Power website, call a number, and say,
yes,
I'd like to opt in.
Yeah, but I believe it's NashuaCommunityPower.gov.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
CommunityPowerNashua.gov.
NashuaCommunityPower.gov.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation this evening, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Reading minutes of previous meetings. There being no objection, I will declare the minutes of the special and regular Board of Aldermen meetings of May 28th, 2024, and May 29th, 2024 be accepted, placed on file, and the reading suspended. Communications requiring only procedural actions and written reports from liaisons.
Communication has been received from George Torres, Chief Financial Officer, Pennachuck, regarding Pennachuck Waterworks, Inc., request for approval of loan from the NHDES PFAS Remediation Grant and Loan Fund.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communication and place it on file. Period for public comment relative to items expected to be acted upon this evening. No one has signed up. Communications requiring final approval.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding contract over $1 million, Martini Northern.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept, place on file, and approve of change order 1 for construction services related to the Arlington Street Community Center renovation project with Martini Northern in the amount of $53,014.50. Funding will be through Department 106 Administrative Services, Fund 54210, Construction Services / Arlington Street Repairs and Renovations.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Roll call.
Alderman O'Brien. You're muted.
Present.
And yea or nay?
Hello?
Hi, Mike. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if he can hear
Did
us.
did you hear the motion?
I heard the motion and I support it.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a yes?
Alderwoman Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman Moran?
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau?
Yes.
Alderman Govea?
Yes.
Alderman Lopez?
Yes.
Listen.
Alderman Sullivan?
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Senate?
Yes.
Alderman Jettie?
Yes.
Alderman Tebow?
I support it. Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire?
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Madam Speaker, Alderman O'Brien, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Mike.
All right, also, Madam President, I've been here at the meeting since the beginning,
Okay.
having some computer issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're all set now. Thank you.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding Tax Increment Finance Development Program, Hoyle, Tanner and Associates, Inc.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a contract for construction administrative services as it relates to the Riverfront Project Water Street Retaining Wall Repair with Hoyle, Tanner and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $13,997. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development, Fund 53107 Architect and Engineering Services, Riverfront TIF Bond.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion?
Just a point of order, the closed caption, or the TV indicated Alderman Thibodeau as Alderman Tebow from Ward 8, but I just didn't want anyone to get confused.
Well, that never happens.
I don't like that.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien?
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons?
Yes.
Alderman Moran?
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau?
Yes.
Alderman Govea?
Yes.
Alderman Lopez?
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan?
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons?
Yes.
Alderman Senate?
Yes.
Alderman Jettie?
Yes.
Alderman Tebow?
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire?
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding tax increment finance development program, Evrox Corporation.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept, place on file, and award a construction contract for Water Street retaining wall repair related to the Nashua Downtown Riverfront implementation project with Evrox Corporation in the amount of $108,950. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development, Fund 70500, Project Contingency / Riverfront TIF Bond.
You've heard the motion. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding tax increment finance development program, Concentric Fabrication LLC.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to accept, place on file, and award a construction contract for substation screen and structure fabrication related to the Nashua Downtown Riverfront Implementation Project with Concentric Fabrication LLC in the amount of $795,000. Funding will be through the Department 183 Economic Development Fund 54210, Construction Services, Riverfront TIF Bond.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 1 nay.
And that motion carries. Petitions.
None.
Nominations, appointments, and elections.
Joint convention with the Edgewood Cemetery Board of Trustees.
There being no objection, I declare the Board of Aldermen meet in joint convention with the Edgewood Cemetery Board of Trustees for the purpose of electing 2 trustees and call for nominations.
Good evening, Madam President. My name is Tom Maffey, President of the Board of Trustees of Edgewood Cemetery, and the trustees nominate Reverend Andy Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Thank you very much. There being no objection, I will close the nominations. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
I support, but I did not get the names.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes, I nominate incumbent Morgan Hollis and Andrew Strong.
Alderman Moran.
Hollis and Armstrong.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Hollis and Armstrong.
Alderman Govea.
Hollis and Armstrong?
Alderman Lopez.
Reverend Andrew Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Alderman Sullivan.
Trustee Hollis and Trustee Armstrong.
Alderman Clemmons.
Morgan Hollis, Andrew Armstrong.
Alderman Senate.
Morgan Hollis and Andrew Armstrong?
Alderman Jettie.
Morgan Hollis and Andrew Armstrong.
Alderman Tebow.
Morgan Hollis and Reverend Andrew Armstrong.
Alderman Clee.
Morgan Hollis and Andrew Armstrong.
Alderman Dowd.
Morgan Hollis and Reverend Andrew Armstrong.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Morgan Hollis and Andrew Armstrong.
Alderman Wilshire,
Morgan Hollis and Reverend Andrew Armstrong.
Carl Andrade,
Reverend Andrew Armstrong and Attorney Morgan Hollis.
Andrew Armstrong, Thomas.
Morgan.
Thomas Dion,
Reverend Andrew Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Douglas Gagney,
Andrew Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Morgan Hollis,
Yes, on Reverend Armstrong, abstaining on Morgan Hollis.
Brian Law, Michael Lozo,
Reverend Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Thomas Maffey,
Reverend Armstrong, Morgan Hollis.
Robert McIntosh, Brian Morrissey,
Andrew Armstrong and Morgan Hollis.
Mayor Donchis,
Reverend Armstrong and Mr. Hollis.
24 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries. I declare Morgan Hollis and Andrew Armstrong duly appointed to the Edgewood Cemetery Board of Trustees for terms to expire March 31st, 2029. There being no objection, I will declare that the joint event convention now arise. Reports of committees. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry. Would Mr. Hollis and Mr. Armstrong please come forward for the oath of office?
Come right up here.
Raise your right hand. Do you each solemnly swear that faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as members of the Edgewood Cemetery Board of Trustees, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God? Thank you.
Reports of committees. There being no objection, I will declare the report of the May 30th, 2024 Ad hoc Capital Debt Committee be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I will declare the reports of the May 29th and May 30th, 2024 Budget Review Committee be accepted and placed on file. Confirmation of mayor's appointments.
None.
Unfinished business resolutions.
Second reading of R-24-058, naming D'Antonio Drive.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-24-058, and I'd like to speak to it.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, this is actually part of the purchase and sale agreement, and when we bought the property, that we would name it after the original owner and the father of the people we bought it from. Mr. D'Antonio was a World War II hero. He had a Purple Heart, another medal that was presented to him by Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander. So he's a National Army hero from World War II. And I asked my fellow aldermen to pass this legislation unanimously. It was the Committee on Infrastructure recommended final passage.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
And that motion carries. Resolution 2458 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of R-24-062, changing the purpose of up to $273,774 of unexpended bond proceeds from the Franklin Street School Building Improvements Project to the School Building Safety Improvement Project.
Alderman Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-24-062, and I'd like to speak to it briefly.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, we had this money left over from the Franklin Street project, and the security vestibules that we're building in the 2 remaining schools, the Dr. Crisp is firmly underway and near completion, actually. And we have 1 school left, that's New Searles, and we are going to need a little bit of extra money, but this $273,774 will make the money needed to finish that project significantly less. So it was approved by the Budget Review Committee and for final passage, as well as the Board of Education, and I ask that we approve this.
You've heard the motion. Discussion on that motion. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. This one is a real dilemma for me, and the reason for it was back when we had the $8.5 million bond that we approved here, we had said that if there were any leftover monies from other projects, that we would put it towards that $8.5 million. This is not a lot of money. This is only $273,000. And when I look at it, as I've talked to Alderman Dowd, who explained to me that this is at a lower rate than we could get right now if we had to go in for a bond. But I have to wonder if there was someplace else that they could have gotten that money, the $273,774. I don't know how much excess money they will be giving back. We won't know that till September. I don't want to hold this up, so I will probably vote for it, but I'm going to say that I have concerns that we're going back on what we said, because we did very specifically say that we would use any extra money. I remember Franklin Street School, when we spoke about that, we were hoping to have like $400,000 to maybe kind of diffuse this, as well as not using the whole $10,000 from the middle school project and so on. So while I will vote yes for this because I don't want to hold this up, the vestibules are extraordinarily important. I just wish that they had tried to dig a little bit deeper to try to find the money elsewhere. Again, thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chairman?
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, when we're talking about the $8.5 million bond, and we were going to have monies to reduce that. It was monies that will be left over and not have to be bonded for the McCarthy School. We will have a significant amount of money left over to offset any monies for that elementary school project. This money from Franklin Street has always been earmarked to go to the security vestibules project, so that any monies that are needed beyond that $277,000 will be much less and could probably be done by cash or other means without going back to the bond, but that will certainly be up to the full Board of Aldermen.
Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and Resolution 2462 is declared duly adopted. Unfinished business ordinances.
Second reading of O-24-018, no parking or stopping on a section of the east side of Manchester Street.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, without trying to monopolize the meeting, I'd like to make a motion for final approval of O-24-018. I'd like to speak to it.
Alderman Dowd.
The Pennachuck School last year occasionally had cars backing up on Manchester Street towards Henry Burke, which was a problem. And we had an agreement with the state highway commission that we would not back up cars to the Henry Burke. This year, the school will have 250 more students in it and 12 additional staff. So in working with the traffic engineer for the city of Nashua, which they have, by the way, sent a letter approving this, we want to put in, this legislation put in no parking, stopping, or standing signs from the entrance to Pennachuck to the Henry Burke on Manchester Street, so that there will not be traffic problems and we will not be getting in trouble with the state.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Discussion on the motion. Alderman Thibodeau.
My only concern is, or thought is, what's going to happen to all the people who were parking along Manchester Street? So especially now that there's 250 more registered students, I'm assuming that the cars are going to increase. And we're going to have more cars that are going to need to back up into a spot that they're not going to be allowed to back up on. I'm just curious if any conversations have been had with that and what possible solutions there are for that.
Alderman Dowd, did you have a conversation with the traffic department about that?
Yes, we did. One thing, the cars already to some degree parked on Ferry Road, and they'll continue to do that. And the the DPW is going to put up signs that do not block driveways. We've had several meetings with a score of engineers, including the city engineer, the city traffic manager, the superintendent, the principal of the school. They're hoping that they can, as COVID has gone by, that more people will be riding the bus and there won't be as many cars, perhaps. And we gave them an option to switch the bus loop from the parent loop, which would allow many more cars off the street. They didn't want to do that. So since they didn't want to do that this year, and since we don't really want cars ever to be backed up on Manchester Street, these signs are going in. The signs will also be on Ferry Road saying don't block driveways, and it should alleviate the problem.
All set, Alderman Thibodeau?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to say this in following Alderman Dowd. What Alderman Dowd didn't really mention with all this is the safety of our children. Having no parking will, I think, enhance the safety. Therefore, I would be 100% in support of this.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
15 yeas, 0 nays.
that motion carries and ordinance 2418 is declared duly adopted.
Second reading of O-24-019, amended, reserving a parking space in front of 8 East Pearl Street.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I motion to amend O-24-019 by replacing it with the goldenrod copy of recommended amendments made at the Committee on Infrastructure by roll call, and may I just speak to it briefly?
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. The mayor spoke about it at the very beginning. The original legislation was an error that it named the VFW post versus the American Legion post and gave the wrong address and only one parking space. So this corrects that by saying 2 parking spaces at 11 Court Street for the American Legion Hall. And that is basically just the change to the original ordinance request.
Motion is to amend. Alderman Lopez.
I will be supporting this. I will just observe to the mayor that if he had asked the Ward 4 alderman, who is the alderman for both the VFW and the Legion, it might have been less confusing because I could have presented it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I motion for final passage of 024-019 as amended. By roll call, please.
Motion is for final passage as amended. Discussion on that motion? Alderman Jettie.
Thank you. So I'm not going to support this. I know I'm going to get into trouble with people who think that this is legislation that's necessary to support our veterans. I'm a veteran. I'm not against veterans. However, I watched the meeting of the Infrastructure Committee where this was discussed, and I spoke to Director Hannum about it as to what the reasoning was, what the why was this necessary, and I wasn't really satisfied with the answer. People talked about veterans and disabled veterans, handicapped veterans, but when I look at the ordinance doesn't say anything about handicap. All it does is dedicate 2 reserved parking spaces in front of 11 Court Street for the use of the American Legion. Now, Court Street is in need, I think, of more handicap spaces. People who use, the library, disabled people, have trouble getting to the library. The lower parking lot of the library, they have to go up the hill to get to the entrance to the library. So it's much more accessible for them to have handicap parking spots on Court Street, which is at the same level as the entrance to the library. And I've brought this up to Director Hannum and Director Sullivan. Hopefully when they build a new plaza there, they'll be able to possibly put in angled parking as part of that plaza development for handicap, so that handicapped people can be on the same level, get to the entrance to the library. This legislation, like I said, doesn't say anything about handicap. So, anybody at the American Legion can park there. So, I you know, and all members of the American Legion are not disabled veterans, and all disabled veterans are not members of the American Legion. I would feel more comfortable if it was limited to disabled veterans or handicapped individuals, but it's not. So it can be used by anybody. You know, the manager, the bartender, you know, can park there. And, you know, it's completely up to them.
Diane?
Parking enforcement, I mean, there's no provision that there will be any kind of, you know, designation. Like, when people lease spaces, you know, they get you know, they pay for it, number one, and number two, they get a placard, which is, you know, for that specific vehicle. You know, this doesn't have that provision, so parking enforcement, you know, they see two cars parked there, they're gonna have no idea whether they're connected to the Legion or not. You know, it'll be up to the Legion to police it themselves. And I think the sentiment is probably a good one, but I don't think this ordinance delivers on the intention. And, you know, so for all of those problems, I'm not gonna vote for it.
Further discussion? Alderman Lopez.
Just to the previous speaker's point, I found out I could actually join the Legion as the Sons of the Legion. So as long as you have a veteran as a parent who has a DD-214. So it is not an institution that's dedicated to disabled veterans. There's actually stairs that you have to go up as well. But I do think there's a lot of competition for space down there, and it is helpful to be able to park within proximity of that location. Even only 2 spaces may make a difference if they're having a VIP or a guest or something along those lines, or if it is staff. So I have spoken to members of the Legion. They were pretty favorable towards this, so I will be supporting it.
Further discussion? Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I use the American Legion, and I'm also a disabled vet, and I also have a placard as well. And when I go to American Legion, it's really hard to find a spot in front of American Legion because most of the people that goes into the American Legion are veterans. So I'm going to support it because of those reasons. And when I try to find a parking spot on the right-hand side where the handicap, I can't find one. So I have to go into the library to get a spot. So I think it's beneficial to the American Legions to have that spot, those 2 spots there. And a lot of the, just furthermore, if I may,
yes.
A lot of the American Legion veterans are elder and they're handicapped as well, so.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
He's on mute.
Alderman O'Brien. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
No.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion carries, and ordinance 2419 is declared duly adopted as amended.
Second reading of O-24-020, authorizing a stop sign on D'Antonio Drive at its intersection with Buck Meadow Road.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of O24020. I'd like to speak to it.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, as part of the school project on Dan Antonio Drive, the project paid for stop signs on the street, but a stop sign has to have legislation to make it official. And since D'Antonio Drive is now a city street, the stop sign's already in place and is in the place and approved by the Department of Public Works and the city traffic engineer. So, and the Committee on Infrastructure's recommendation for final passage.
Motion is for final passage. Discussion on that motion. Alderwoman Kelly.
If the stop sign's already in place, if we say no, what happens?
Take it down.
Just
It's
wondering.
not really a stop sign.
Just
Suggestion.
wondering.
Further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and ordinance 24-20 is declared duly adopted. I don't know if there's any interest in taking the next resolution off the table. Okay, we'll move on. New business resolutions.
First reading of R-24-064, authorizing Pennachuck Corporation and Pennachuck Waterworks, Inc. to borrow funds from the State of New Hampshire PFAS Remediation and Grant Fund.
Additional sponsors? Alderman Moran, Alderman Govea, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Dowd, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, Alderwoman Kelly, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll sign that to the Pennachuck Water Special Committee.
First reading of R-24-065, approving the cost items of a collective bargaining agreement between the National Board of Education and the Nashua Teachers Union Local 1044 AFT AFL-CIO Unit D food service workers from September 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2027.
Additional sponsors, Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Moran, Alderman Govea, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Senate, Alderman Clee, Alderwoman Kelly, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee.
First reading of R-24-066, relative to the supplemental appropriation of $301,026.90 of fiscal year 2024 unanticipated revenue into Fund Number 7024 Opioid Abatement Expendable Trust Fund.
Additional sponsors, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd, Alderman Thibodeau, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll sign that to the Budget Review Committee and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing on Monday, July 22nd, 2024 at 7 p.m. here in the Aldermanic Chamber.
First reading of R-24-067, approving the cost items of a sidebar agreements between the National Board of Police Commissioners and 2 National Police Department unions regarding vacation accrual rates.
Additional sponsors, Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Moran, Alderman Thibodeau, Alderman Govea, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Senate, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee. I think there was a sentiment to maybe have a second reading for that this evening. What's the board's pleasure? I know that Deputy Chief Brian Kenny is here,
So moved. I move to suspend the rules.
Okay, the motion is to suspend the rules to allow for a second reading. Mr. Kenny, would you care to join us at the microphone?
Do we have to do a roll call?
Oh, yes, we have to do a roll call, but stand down just for a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes,
15 yeas, 0 nays.
that motion carries. Deputy Kenny?
Thank you very much. Brian Kenny, Deputy Chief with the Police Department here in Nashua. And without going too far into this, this is a relatively small sidebar regarding vacations for new incoming officers. And no surprise to the Board of Aldermen that recruiting has become increasingly difficult. So we had some recent discussions at the Police Department on what our difficulties are, but also what things have been a success in the last few years. And that spawned a conversation as to, we looked at the last 5 years in total, and of the 58 officers that we hired in the last 5 years, 21 of those were certified from other communities that we were able to recruit to our police department. So we had some discussions with those 21 officers, specifically some of our newer ones, about the obstacles, why they came to Nashua. And it was overwhelmingly because of, we're a well-paid department and opportunity at the police department here in Nashua. But we also talked about what the stumbling blocks are and maybe if they had some reservations. And most of the reservations were vacation time, and specifically with officers that came over with some time, significant time on, who had families, who said the tough thing was for me to consume the loss in vacation time. If I have 5 years at another police department, I'm coming back at square one as a new 0 time on officer in Nashua with 2 weeks. So we were still lucky enough to entice these officers, but we're just looking to re-incentivize officers to come over and remove that one stumbling block. So we would consider certified service, their certified service recognized by the police academy as certified as service that would qualify for the vacation time according to the 2 contracts.
I guess what we should have done initially is had a second reading, so if the clerk would do a second reading, I'd appreciate that.
Second reading of R-24-067, approving the cost items of sidebar agreements between the Nashua Board of Police Commissioners and 2 Nashua Police Department unions regarding vacation accrual rates.
Thank you. Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, and forgive me because you might have responded to my email, but I haven't checked it because I've been on vacation, so. But my question is, does this include officers who were hired, who you may have had those conversations with? So in other words, will they get the increase of vacation time?
Yes, thank you, Alderman. This would include making the officers whole that already exist. It was our fear that we could have hired an officer this year with the 2 weeks vacation and hire an officer, if this should pass next month or in September, who would immediately have more vacation than someone that came over last month. So we would look to make those officers whole.
Alderman Clemmons, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just thank you for that answer. I think that's what I was looking for, and I wholeheartedly support this. I know that your job is not easy, and having the ability to have time with your family is an important thing, especially with the job that you do. So I think this is something that I wholeheartedly can support.
Alderman Govea.
I was just going to move for final passage of R-24-067.
Thank you. Motion on the floor is for final passage. Next I have Alderman Clee.
Thank you. Alderman Clemmons did ask the question that I had, but a follow-up to that is, Those the 21 that you spoke of that came over, you said about you would make them whole. Are there any that have been here for longer than a year that would have had this vacation time in previous, or are we just going to start from this year making them whole? So in other words, is there somebody who's been here for like a couple of years that would have had all that vacation time?
Yes, ma'am. Primarily, there's most of those certified officers are within the last few years. We do have certified officers that have been here for an extended amount of time, if I understand your question correctly.
Yeah.
That would immediately get an extra week of vacation, potentially. So we have, for example, we have a sergeant who got hired years ago who would stand to get an entire extra week of vacation because he served for 5 years in Amherst, New Hampshire, prior to coming to Nashville.
Okay.
Do I understand your question correctly?
May I?
Alderman Clay.
I'm glad you answered that, but I guess the question would be is if he was entitled to that extra week 2 years ago, are we going to give him 2 extra weeks just
Oh, I
for
see
this
what you're
year?
saying.
You know, to make up for it, or are we just starting from scratch and saying, okay, now you're going to get that one?
The idea is to make them whole starting from here forward.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Alderman Sullivan?
Thank you. My question was answered.
Okay, very good. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you, and I want to start with, I support this. I think it makes sense to give you guys anything you can to recruit, and I appreciated when you brought forward this certified officer program a couple of years ago. It seems to be successful. I do have a question because the fiscal note says unsure. We just passed the budget. Do you feel confident that you'll be able to cover the overtime for the new vacations?
I do. So we had some meetings. I brought in our business manager, Karen Smith, to talk about this. We're doing okay with our overtime as of now. A lot of that is forced overtime, which isn't the greatest for retention. But we looked at people that would immediately get an extra week of vacation. Some of those are not in patrol necessarily, so it wouldn't cause any mandatory minimum issues. There is a small portion that are still in patrol, and while it would be potentially an extra week of vacation or a year or two towards their next week, it's hard to quantify what the overtime backfill numbers are. But I guess my best response to that is we have a maximum amount of officers that can be on vacation at any given time. So 4 officers, for example, can be on vacation tonight. With the low numbers that we have, that's going to automatically involve overtime. If this were to be successful and we bumped our numbers, 4 officers on vacation might not cause overtime, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes, had discussions with the deputy about this before I sponsored it, and the police department still officers short. And this is one stumbling block if somebody wants to come over from another department, that they'd lose vacation coming over. This would solve that and also open up the opportunity for additional highly qualified officers to come over. We end up with an officer that has a lot of experience and qualification, is highly vetted by our police department, and fills the need that we have, being officers short. So this is extremely important to the police department, and I fully support it.
Alderwoman Timmons?
Thank you, Madam President. I also support it. Just want to know the difference between PTO versus vacation, or it's the same?
Vacation time, it's all the same.
It's all, okay.
Yes.
Is there anyone on Zoom that has a hand up? No. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
15 yeas, 0 nays.
That motion carries, and ordinance 2467 is duly adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First reading of R-24-068, relative to the transfer of $246,000 from Department 193 Debt Service Accounts 75200, interest to Department 159 Hydrants Fire Protection Account 54835, hydrant fees.
Additional sponsors? Alderman Clee?
O'Brien.
Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Dowd, and myself. That's it. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee.
First reading of R-24-069, authorizing a tower cell site lease agreement with Dish Wireless LLC regarding a wireless communications facility located at 10 Whipple Street.
Additional sponsors?
O'Brien.
Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Clee, Alderman Dowd. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee and the Board of Public Works. New business ordinances.
First reading of O-24-024, authorizing stop signs at the intersection of Bowers Street and Dearborn Street.
Additional sponsors. Alderwoman
O'Brien.
Timmons. Alderman O'Brien, Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Moran, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee, and myself. And Alderman Dowd.
Alderman, yep.
Thank you. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Committee on Infrastructure.
First reading of O-24-025, amending the Keefe Auditorium Commission.
Additional sponsors. Alderwoman Timmons, Alderman Moran, Alderman Senate, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Clee. Given its first
Just
reading.
go Alderman O'Brien, too.
Okay, Alderman O'Brien. Given its first reading, I'll send that to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee. Period for general public comment. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that have signed up. When you come to the microphone, please give your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes for your comments. The first one is Beth Scare.
Beth Scare, 111 East Hobart Street. As part of the recent City Pride event, a woman performed on stage in front of the Nashua Library wearing bondage belts over her breasts. She was very nearly topless and wearing BDSM gear, meaning bondage, discipline, dominance, and submission. She was demonstrating sadomasochism at a show targeted towards families with children. In response to my comments at the last Board of Aldermen meeting, Alderman Moran said the parents have to make that final decision. What about the families that came to the library not knowing that the Pride event was being held there and just expecting to be able to check out books? What about families who attended believing the show would be family-friendly? Alderman Moran also said it's impossible to regulate the human experience. This is just silly. The Pride Committee invited this person to perform. They knew she would perform in BDSM gear. It's central to her performance. The Pride Committee knew they were providing adult entertainment to families with children and that it would be viewed by library patrons accompanied by children. None of this is impossible to regulate. According to the city's website, adult entertainment is banned from the Pride event. Does the Pride Committee know it's banned? Last year, the show at the Pride event was held at the Court Street Theater. This was an improvement because parents who brought their kids would have given consent and passersby would not unknowingly be exposed to it. But now we are back to the inappropriate performances being out in public. Why?
Next speaker, Stephen Scare.
Good evening, Madam President. I'd like to address what I observed when my wife, Beth Scare, spoke about the Pride Festival at the June 25th meeting. Alderman Clemmons smirked, shook his head, and laughed. This is inappropriate. Citizens who speak at board meetings deserve respect, even if we disagree. As anyone who survived middle school knows, ridicule is a form of coercion, a way to silence people. This chamber shouldn't be a middle school. Moreover, when someone responds to a statement with sneers instead of reason, he lays claims to a superiority he hasn't earned. In response to Beth's concerns about having a family entertainer and scantily clad in bondage, Alderman Moran said the parents have to make that final decision. If that's true, what stops Nashua from sponsoring a pride event with entirely naked men, as some cities do? Alderman Moran also said that it's impossible to regulate the human experience. That doesn't make sense. Every law and rule regulates the human experience. Schools have dress codes, and I assume he regulates the human experiences of his employees by requiring them to dress appropriately. But the bigger concern is what the city's promoting. Drag queens mock women's appearance and mannerisms and teach children that sex is performative. A woman is a costume anyone can put on. Transgenderism teaches that a girl can be born in the wrong body and she might need chemicals and surgeries to be her authentic self. Nashua has no business promoting a convoluted and destructive religion that pushes children down a path of irreversible harm. Regarding Mr. Moran's statement that the rainbow isn't for everyone, many educated, professional, gay women and men don't like being represented by adults parading in front of children in fetish outfits. Gays Against Groomers fights against this indoctrination and exploitation. Madam President, in their comments at the end of the meeting, aldermen occasionally build straw men by inaccurately reframing and responding to comments they don't like. I encourage them to instead follow up with those citizens and try to understand their positions. I realize these are controversial issues, and I'm happy to discuss them. Thank you.
Nicholas Scalera.
Hello again, Board. My name is Nick Scalera from 2 Paddington Place here in Nashua. I'm here once again to compel you all to write, endorse, and pass a resolution calling for a permanent and sustained ceasefire in Gaza. 9 months. For 9 months, the people of Gaza have been starved, persecuted, and exterminated, all with our tax dollars. I'll say it again, our tax dollars. Money that should be going to fund our schools. My mother is one of the most nurturing souls that any of you would be ever lucky to meet. She's a kindergarten teacher here in Nashua at one of our Title I schools. At the last meeting, some of you are debating whether or not our teachers would even notice $500,000 being removed from their budget. Alderwoman Klee, let me tell you, my mother would definitely notice $500,000 missing from her budget. But back to Gaza. As some of you may have seen, The Lancet, which I'm sure Alderman Moran and some of the Board of Health members could tell you is one of the most esteemed medical journals, produced a study this week detailing their estimates from the ongoing genocide. In their calculations, conservative calculations I should add, taking into account direct civilian deaths at the hands of the occupying Israeli military and indirect deaths such as starvation, malnutrition, and disease, they put the current death total at roughly 186,000 people, roughly the populations of Manchester and Nashua combined. How much more? Will the 200,000th death be enough for all of you to grow a spine and stop being feckless cowards? Will 2,101 deaths be enough for you to listen to your constituents? Alderman Dowd, will 200,002 deaths be enough for you to actually care about your voters who are coming to you to do something? Will that death maybe make you reconsider what you were doing for those 41 years while you worked at BAE Systems, one of the largest profiteers of mass murder? I refuse to hear the excuse of defense weaponry being used to safeguard our nation. How is dropping a 2,000-pound bomb on a United Nations school killing 18, as happened today, protecting us? This is a direct question to you, Alderman Dowd, and I hope you answer it for once during your comment period after this, instead of passing your time shamelessly as you usually do. Mayor Donchis, will 200,003 deaths be enough for you to have the same courtesy as you did for Ukrainians in your city, but for Palestinians? Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to Congress later this month to give a speech, a war criminal who's on the verge of being arrested by the ICC. Will any of you condemn him or call on our federal delegation to boycott his appearance? This week, as reported by Haaretz, the paper of record in Israel, we found out for certain that the Israeli military instituted the Hannibal Doctrine on October 7th. These protocols, while being ostensibly for military personnel, certainly have civilian casualties. While I wholeheartedly disagree on the fundamental level with such a policy, there's at least an argument that it could be used for military, but it wasn't. According to Haaretz reporting, the Israeli military, when approving the directive's use on October 7th, ordered planes and ground infantry to not let cars re-enter Gaza not knowing civilian hostages were in those cars. We, as a group who recognize Palestinian humanity, have had to condemn Hamas at every waking turn, which we gladly do. Will you here, who have defended Israel time and time again, condemn the Israeli military for killing not only their own citizens, but nearly 200,000 Palestinians? Please remember that number. Thank you.
Bradley Conway.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Bradley Conway from Manchester. As Americans, we know that aiding and abetting crime is a crime itself. For example, when a bank robbery is prosecuted, the person driving the getaway car is also indicted, not just the robbers. Another example would be maybe a gun store owner who could face liability if they knowingly violated federal or state laws in the course of a sale, or if the gun store owner was negligent in entrusting the firearm to someone who was likely to use it for criminal purposes. No one is above the law, especially not politicians. Nashua's federal representative delegation, including Annie Custer, Jean Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan, continue using their elected office to aid and abet Israel with more bombs and weapon systems and ammunitions amid what the International Criminal Court has ruled to be a plausible genocide. Yesterday, Plus 972 magazine published an article where 6 Israeli soldiers were interviewed and described, quote, being authorized to open fire on Palestinians virtually at will, including at civilians, end quote. It's permissible to shoot a young girl, an old woman. There is no need to explain, you just shoot, end quote. We've known this to be true ever since the Israeli army killed three of their hostages while they were holding white flags back in December. That was 7 months ago. It was estimated this weekend that the total number of deaths in Gaza is likely as high as 186,000, and we know everyone who's not dead is being tortured and starved and terrorized. The crime on top of crime on top of crime at this point is now undeniably being conducted for the sake of terror and extermination. Your federal colleagues may smile and seem normal when you shake their hand, but I warn you to tremble at what they have done to the people of Gaza, what they continue to do to real people, including the families of Nashua residents. With every fiber of my being, I urge you to take action on behalf of the city of Nashua to make this stop. We do not share values with the Israeli government. No upstanding resident of Nashua would want to live in a world or a society where one iota of these crimes is deemed acceptable, an acceptable means of doing business. Those who cause tremendous suffering, intentionally, preemptively, vindictively, indiscriminately, illegally, must be sidelined and censored and restrained and held to account. I myself believe that the city could make the most impact by disclosing where its retirement funds, pensions, endowments, and other investments are stashed, and eventually by divesting from companies targeted by the BDS
30
movement.
seconds.
In conclusion, please pass a strongly worded resolution in solidarity with Palestine to help tip the scales back towards fairness, to free Palestine and stop the genocide. Thank you.
Last, we have Colby Labrie.
Hello, my name is Colby Labrie. I live at 106 Gilson Road. I'm here today to demand your support to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. The situation there requires immediate attention and action. A ceasefire is a crucial step towards preventing further loss of innocent lives. The ongoing genocide has resulted in unimaginable suffering, particularly among civilians, including women and children. As representatives of the community, it is your moral duty to advocate for an end to this violence and to protect the fundamental rights of individuals to exist. Secondly, a ceasefire would facilitate the delivery of essential humanitarian aid to those in desperate need. The people of Gaza are facing severe shortages of food, medicine, and basic supplies due to the intentional destruction and disruption of aid trying to enter. A ceasefire can help create a safe environment for humanitarian organizations to provide life-saving assistance to those most affected. Thirdly, a ceasefire is not just a temporary cessation of hostilities, but a critical opportunity for the ICC to investigate the many reports of war crimes committed by Israel over the last several months, after which a lasting peace agreement can be discussed. As a city that values diversity, inclusivity, and peaceful coexistence, we have a responsibility to support diplomatic efforts that seek to address the underlying causes of the conflict and promote sustainability in the region. Lastly, by passing a resolution in support of the ceasefire, we send a message in solidarity and compassion to the people of Gaza and to all those affected in the conflict, in and outside of our community. In demonstrating our commitment to upholding human rights, advocating for justice, and standing against violence and oppression whenever it occurs. In conclusion, I urge each of you to consider the positive impact that your support of a resolution could have. By standing together and calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, we can signal to those in our state capital and beyond that Nashua stands for human rights in advancing the cause of peace and justice in our global community. Thank you very much.
That concludes public comment. Remarks by members of the board. I'll start over here tonight. Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. There probably was a time that I would become upset about comments about me directly, but I've moved on from those days because there's no point in becoming upset about things that you will adamantly disagree with and not be able to change the opposing side's opinion. It's just not worth it. I will say again, this is the live free or die state. You can't regulate the human mind and experience. Of course, you can require clothes and all these other things. It's what we have to do. But nothing that I saw at the Pride Parade that you wouldn't see at the beach. Actually, probably more inappropriate at the beach, quite frankly. Or if you go to a local sports bar or any other area, people can dress the way they want, or the mall. I don't know. I don't know how you regulate how people dress, other than making sure they just cover up obscene, quote-unquote, areas. The other public speaker, for sure, you should definitely run against Alderman Dowd. If you get elected, you have a mandate to bring forth a resolution, and that would be, less than 12 months away. Sign up for it. I remember when I disagreed with some members here, I ran against them. I lost the first time, but I ran against them. If you have a platform that you're passionate about, you should definitely run for office and bring forth the resolution if you can't convince others to do so yourself. Thank you.
You have to live in Ward 2.
No, it's, Alderman Lopez.
First, I would like to point out that President Wilshire is currently regulating my dress, even though it's the middle of the summer. We're all still wearing jackets. I personally find it ironic that the speakers that presented earlier object to what they perceive as disrespectful or, inconsiderate dialogue, when much of what they say is very objectionable to people who are trying to live their own private lives, their own personal lives in the ways that they see fit. And some members of the public feel passionately enough that they can come and very, very graphically dispute or discredit other people's private lives and how they live. That's frustrating to me personally. And I have to say, I cannot understand how somebody could possibly have gone to the library on the day of the Pride Festival unaware that the Pride Festival was happening. You would have had to literally pass through like 7 archways of rainbows and 50 unicorns. So I guess somebody might have gotten in there and been like, what's all this about? But I don't think so. I think the Pride event itself was a celebration of solidarity, of support. I think it was a very positive event. And I think many parents brought their children to that event knowing that that was what was going to be celebrated, because they are trying to raise their children to be accepting and loving, which I think is a good thing. I want to thank everybody who was involved in the 4th of July festivities, starting with the Toll Street Mission, who did a pop-up food pantry over at Delena's house, and then continuing with the Liquid Therapy, who definitely came to our rescue when we were trying to organize it and found that there was likely to be construction equipment staged where we were going to be doing the 4th of July event. And just a few days after having a fire incident close their restaurant, Stan had that place up and running and ready to go. He did a great job of feeding everybody. Eleanor Luna and the Midnight Creatives Collective did a really good job of pulling together musicians and artists at the last minute, where first we thought it was going to be like a casual kind of outside festival thing, and then we realized it was going to be like we had an audience and it was going to be a show. And a lot of really great performers showed up for that. I also think that the mayor and the Department of Public Works and all of the people involved in organizing the fireworks this year went above and beyond. It looked amazing. It was great. And I thought that was a great testament to our country. Finally, I want to acknowledge the speakers tonight because they have been watching people that they have a connection to, whether it's their family members or whether it's places that they've been to, suffer terrible tragedy. I do think that people in Israel have also suffered tragedy, and I think that both sides in that conflict would benefit from outside intervention. I know the UN did call for a ceasefire, which was historic. And I know a lot of efforts have been made to try to broker a peace that preserves lives. And I know a lot of it has been successful, or unsuccessful, and has fallen far short of what the intentions were. We built a dock so that we could deliver food to people in Gaza because trucks were being stopped, and that has not worked out for many, many reasons at all as we intended. So I think it's a situation that's very difficult for people in Nashua who have direct connections to that. I think civil dialogue is very, very important. And I have to say that the organizers of the ceasefire in Gaza movement have been here every week with very well-crafted and very carefully considered arguments, and where they definitely get loud and they definitely get irritated and they definitely get angry, and probably hurt their case when they directly attack the people that they're trying to persuade to vote for them. I can understand that people get frustrated and people get overwhelmed and maybe so consumed with trying to be heard when they don't feel heard that they aren't necessarily aware that when they are heard, they're not always saying what would be best for the situation. I hope that there's peace in the Middle East. I hope that Gaza and Israel and Palestine can find that kind of resolution. And I am continuing to listen. I am continuing to engage the faith community, as well as the members that are speaking tonight, to try to see if at least we can represent something here in Nashua that represents our community and affirms that we are neighbors and we all live here together. And it's good when people show up to City Hall to share their views. It's important to make sure that it's respectful views, and it's important that all views be heard.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. I wanted to recognize Travis Spencer. He's a Ward 9 constituent of mine, resident. He raised his right hand and he joined the Navy today. He graduated from Nashua South just a few weeks ago, and today he made his commitment, and that's what he's decided to do. And I also want to congratulate his parents, Tracy and Chris Spencer, because their older son, Colby, is finishing up his commitment to the U.S. Army. So it's interesting that they have an Army and a Navy guy in the same house. I know how that is, a little weird. But I think in the bigger picture, as we zoom out, as we celebrated the 4th of July, this past Monday, cadets from West Point and also the U.S. Naval Academy, and then also down at the Maritime Academy, it's called their R Day or Day Zero, as they start their long journey through basic training and then in through officer training school, and then ultimately graduate to be second lieutenants in the service. In this very hyper-partisan society that we now live in, I think it's important that as you listen to these oath ceremonies, and while they do have to follow the orders of the president and also their senior officers, they take an oath to our Constitution. And that's what they pledge to defend. And I think regardless of what side of the aisle we're on, we all do share a common purpose. And these young women and men that have decided to possibly pay the ultimate sacrifice, they understand that they're all fighting on the same team. And that was really brought home to me this week as I actually listened to all these young people raise their hand and commit to defending our Constitution. So, thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. So, as some of you may have noticed, during one of the speakers, I got up and walked out of the room. And the reason I did that is because that speaker was complaining about me smirking and laughing. And so rather than do it in front of him, I went into the hallway to do it. Thank you.
Alderman Senate.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to just publicly recognize the Spartans Drum and Bugle Corps, who learned earlier this week that they will be participating and representing Nashua in the 2025 Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade. I had the opportunity when I was younger to work a bit with the Spartans, and they provide a lot of exciting opportunities for young people in our community. Not many people can say that they had the opportunity to march in a presidential inauguration parade. I can say that because of the Spartans, because I lived here in Nashua. So it's really exciting that they're able to continue to provide those opportunities. I just want to congratulate them on that. I also want to recognize the Public Works Department. We could go on for days and days talking about all the good that they do, but I came to Director Photo with a constituent concern recently, and it was cleared, and it was a large concern. It took a fair bit of manpower, and it was cleared up within a matter of days. So I was happy to see that they're making the roads and the sidewalks safer for our residents. And I just want to take a moment to recognize all three of our major first responder groups, the Nashua Police Department, Nashua Fire Rescue, and our ambulance service. We had a bit of a scary situation in the neighborhood a couple of weeks ago. Without going into too many details, fast action on behalf of all of them certainly saved lives, and we're really grateful to have them in the community. Thank you.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. So first of all, this feckless coward here has done exactly what the speaker said. I've listened to my constituents in Ward 8, and the ones I speak to there do not want me to sign off on any kind of resolution. So I've done exactly that, and I haven't had one person in Ward 8 come to me and say, we should pass a resolution. Maybe Ward 2 and some of the other wards are different. My ward is clearly that has not been voiced to me. So I'm doing exactly what my ward and my constituents that vote for me want me to do. Second of all, so I want to thank the Public Works and police, fire, everyone that participated in the fireworks this week, because you know, it seemed to go off without a hitch. I didn't see anything reported that there was any major injuries or anything like that. It was great to see everything. For Director Photo and Brian Conant, I know that's Brian's worst fear, is seeing that many people on the Holman grass at one time. But and I talked to him about it. But it was a great event, and congratulations to the Nashua Sports Hall of Famers that got inducted right before the ceremony. I thought that went off pretty well too. So I want to thank them. I haven't been here at the last meeting because I was too busy out there winning a city championship. So congratulations to my team again and the Babe Ruth Championships. The bunch of great kids from all the wards, great parents, and I'm very pleased to be able to coach such a great bunch of kids. So congratulations to all of them. They all deserve their trophies. And last, I want to say, so I didn't mention the Pride Parade, obviously, because I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, but I was there. Me and Alderman Lopez led the parade right behind the mayor with the big banner, and I had to keep up with Alderman Lopez and his little machine there, Segway going. But I was able to do that. So I was there for a lot of it, and I give credit to the people that came out, because it was pouring rain, and it was still a really, really good turnout. People hung out, stayed there for a while at the festival, and I walked over to the performance at one point, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. The person was covered up. What does it matter if it's covered up with a belt, a paper bag, a dress, a shirt, whatever? I can guarantee you, if that was Beyonce or Ariana Grande or I don't know, whoever else is out there these days. Britney Spears still performing. You're going to see tight clothing, and you're going to see that she did not do anything that I thought was suggestive in any way, at least when I was viewing it. So I would think if it was somebody straight, I don't think they would be here protesting that. It was a great event. It was a great pride event, and I think everybody in that community really enjoyed it. I wish, just one of these years we could have a day where it's not pouring rain, and so we could see how many people would actually come out to something like that. But thank you to all the organizers from the city and from the Pride Committee, so thank you.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to clear the record for a couple of things. While I did want to cut the school department's budget by $500,000, $500,000, it was primarily because year after year they give back a few $1,000,000. And that's why I say it would just be $500,000 less that they would be giving back. Not that the kindergarten teacher would lose $500,000 of supplies or so on. I think I made that very clear, and I want to clear the record for that. I also want to clear one more thing. The state prohibits any funds from retirement or anything like that to be put into investments. If I'm not mistaken, we're only allowed to put our money into a bank to get any kind of interest and so on. And that's the state doing that. So to say that we need to divest our retirement funds and so on is just putting out an incorrect message. We put it in a bank, and that's exactly where it is. The other thing I want to, on a happier note, is the National Historical Society this Saturday is going to be doing a repeat of their, at 1 p.m., At Home and Abroad, Nashua and World War II. Also, the Letters to Nashua, the Stories of World War II that was read by Sarah Jarvis from the National Historical Society is up on YouTube, and I strongly suggest anybody who has not seen that, who did not attend to it, to watch it. It's 50 minutes, and she did a phenomenal job. I can't say enough good things about it. I also want to repeat about the At Home and Abroad Nashua World War II at 1 p.m. at the National Historical Society. That will not show up on YouTube, and that's because the people who did it are our neighbors, friends. Alderman Thibault also was one of the ones, and he spoke on behalf of his grandfather. Some people spoke firsthand, having been there. And because of these people and their kind of privacy, they're not going to put it up onto YouTube. So if you want to catch it, please go to it. I believe that maybe this fall they will be repeating it, but take advantage of it now. And go and listen to what these people talk about. They talk about being under their desks. They talk about working for the federal government, women talking about having to go into our factories and so on. They talk about things that we take for granted, flour, sugar, and being rationed of gas and so on. These are people who lived through all that. And we have two people who speak to having been there and what they went through. So anybody who truly wants to support our military, who wants to understand, I strongly suggest that you go to this. And it will be this Saturday, the National Historical Society at 1 p.m. And if you have any questions, you can give them a call. And please watch the Letters to Nashua, Stories of World War II. Thank you.
Alderman Dowd? Alderman Dowd?
I'm all set.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I'll keep it short. Pride is either scalding hot or pouring rain. That's what we get. So put your prayers to it for next year. But that has been about as what it's come out to the last couple of years. And I just wanted to say that I think that our fireworks get better and better every year. My kids were in awe, and I thought it was an incredible show this year. So thank you to everyone at the city who made it happen.
So I'm a little disappointed. Oh, who do we have? Oh, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. First, you guys are superb. Thank you all for your support. during your illness. I would like to thank the surgeons at Southern New Hampshire, the surgeons at Mass General Hospital, and all I got to say is thank God I'm Irish. You can't kill us. You know? But the number one doctor that I really want to thank is my wife Diane. When I had some pretty bad issue, she was right there and able to do just as fine job as anybody in the ER. And I thank her very much for that. So that be it, but I survived. You can't get rid of me that fast. I'll be seeing you all again, hopefully shortly in the chamber. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome, Alderman O'Brien. I just want to send condolences to a fellow classmate, Bob Dion. His father was an alderman at one point. Bob Jr. Passed last week. His, okay, yeah, that's it. Sorry, I was going to say something else about it, but it doesn't need to be said. I also want to give my appreciation to each and every one of you for supporting the efforts of the police department in their very difficult hiring process. Anything we can do to help them to make the city safe is very much appreciated. So as far as doing a second reading and passing that tonight, I thank you wholeheartedly. Okay, committee announcements. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Madam President. Next week, 7/18, at 7 p.m., the Pennachuck Water Special Committee meeting will be held here in the chamber.
Alderman O'Brien?
Yes, tomorrow night, I think it's tomorrow night. Donna, please help me. I think we're going to have a joint meeting between the National Police Department and the Infrastructure Committee to discuss their Riverside Ave project.
Excuse me, Madam President. The meeting has been canceled. We don't have a quorum. Alderman O'Brien.
And there's been much joy and rejoicing.
No ants.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. VITA meets tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, room 208, just down the hall here in City Hall.
Okay. Alderman Lopez.
The Human Affairs Committee meets on Monday, however, I will be on vacation. I've asked our Vice Chair, Alderman Kelly, to chair it. Hopefully she will be available. If not, good luck, Mr. Clerk. But there is a meeting scheduled for Monday.
I will be there.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. Tuesday night, PEDC will meet. On the agenda is Great American Downtown, and it looks like we'll also be adding the Housing Authority as well to discuss a development at Maynard Homes.
Correct, yes.
I will also be away for the next 2 months working, but I'll join via Zoom. But my vice chair will chair the actual committee.
Thank you. Alderwoman Timmons, you're all set? Alderwoman Timmons.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. Department of Health and Human Services is not having a meeting this month.
Okay. Do I see someone else with a hand up? On Zoom? No? Okay. Alderman O'Brien. You get 2 bites at the apple this
Madam
time.
President. If you wanted to get somebody else, you may. If not, happy to do it. Then I would like to make a motion that the Board of Aldermen be so adjourned on July 9, 2024.
By roll call.
And by roll call, please.
Thank you, Alderman
Do
O'Brien.
what by roll call? He didn't say.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I didn't hear the adjourn part.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Yes.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes?
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Tebow,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderman Dowd,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
14 yeas, 1 nay.
That motion carries, and we are adjourned at 9:52 PM. Thank you, everyone.